Welcome to our portion of the show, which is titled Using Web 2.0 Tools and an Open Philosophy to Design Projects and Events, or, as we like to say, how to get people to play together. And that's what we're going to talk about. I'm Jeff Swain. My partner in crime is Allan Gyorke, and we're from Penn State. And one of the things that struck us this morning was what Luann Simon had said about having the big equipment but not changing the culture. Well, actually, that's what we're here to talk about. So we were kind of, when she said that this morning, our eyebrows immediately went up, And
I think I posted on Twitter that I was, feverishly changing the slides just to accommodate that.
So we're actually going to end up talking about three stories of culture change that we've experienced at Penn State. One involving our hot team process, another involving our teaching and learning with technology symposium, and a third involving our learning design summer camp. And actually, Alan's going to kick it off and talk a little bit about the hot teams.
Okay. And if anybody has any questions as we go along, please stop us and ask, because I think we do want this to be conversational. Was anybody at the hot team presentation that I did at the CIC-CIO Tech Forum 2 years ago? Okay. So you might know what that is. If you don't, then it's basically a rapid investigation of an educational technology. So this is something like we say to each other, hey, have you heard of Twitter? Yeah, I know what Twitter is, but how do we use it in the classroom? And then everybody looks around at each other and they shrug their shoulders and say, I don't know. So what we do is we put together a team of like 5 people, and we give them a distinct time limit, like 5 weeks, 4 weeks, and say at the end of that, you're going to answer the 7 questions that EDUCAUSE typically answers about its social media. So they might look into blogs, but we'll look at a specific platform. So maybe we'll say, here are the 7 things you need to know about Google Docs, and we'll produce a white paper that's 2-sided and just answer those 7 questions. The idea is really that somebody could look at that and in a couple of minutes really get a sense and walk in and talk to faculty or talk to another member of the staff or administration about how this tool can basically rock their world. So our universities are large. Okay, that's one of the things I really like about presenting at this particular venue. I don't have to talk to you about, you're dealing with 1,000 students. All of us are dealing with tens of thousands of students. The problem with large universities, though, is that pockets of people learn stuff which isn't often shared. And in Penn State's particular situation, we have 24 campuses, depending on how you count, maybe 26, maybe 27. And that's a lot of pockets. But what we find is that the pockets break down whenever things are open. And specifically, here's my Twitter simulation. So we have people on Twitter, and they start talking about maybe some results that they're finding. They survey our students and say, hey, a lot of our students are producing and uploading videos. Did you know that? No, I didn't know that. And by the way, about 1/3 of our faculty are using YouTube in the classroom. Now, wait a minute. That means that there's a lot of people using YouTube. YouTube is now an educational tool that has more of an impact on Penn State than these open educational resources do. I mean, I don't hear our faculty saying that they're going to, these online repositories and downloading material. Maybe a few are, but a lot of people are using YouTube. So then some of our other group, like the people in my position, say, hey, we just did a white paper about grassroots video. Why don't you check that out? Maybe we can spread this around a little bit further. So we post that online and in the open. And by the way, not just to Penn State, but anybody can access these white papers. And then we start getting responses like, hey, what are you guys talking about? It's kind of like that hallway conversation. So that's what Twitter is for us. I mean, you might have looked at Twitter before and you said, well, why would I want to update people about what I'm doing? It's not about what you're doing. It's about what we're doing. And whenever people start talking about that, you casually get a faculty member who's following this blue person because they're in the same college. They'll suddenly pick up on this conversation and say, wait a minute, there's a lot of activity going on here. Maybe I should pay attention. Next, Jeff is going to talk about our TLT Symposium.
And our TLT Symposium, it's kind of our annual faculty formal. We have it in the spring, and it's an event where we bring faculty together to kind of showcase what they're doing with teaching and learning and research with using these new educational technologies. And what's really cool, if we look at our attendance growth over the last several years, you'll notice it's really taken off in the last 3 years, and it's not just because Allan and I have been chairing it, and we're just fun-loving guys, and so we know how to throw a party. It's actually because of some of the stuff that we've been seeing. But to go back to that previous slide for a second, one of the things that's really cool is that in these early years, the people that were coming and the people that we were showcasing were actually the faculty that we were kind of directly working with, and it kind of flatlined. And what we found through the use of social media in particular is that we've been able to reach a whole new range of faculty, and now we're getting proposal submissions from faculty that we haven't necessarily worked with, but the faculty that we've worked with kind of took back to their campuses and dispersed. And so that's been really, really cool. Prior to 2006, it was really difficult to get people to give up a Saturday, especially I'm assuming Michigan's weather can't be much worse than state colleges where, you have 9 months of winter. So anything in April and, March or April where you have a chance of a good Saturday, asking people to give up.
I think sometimes it interferes with fishing season too.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's always a nightmare. Allan chaired it for the 2 prior years. I had it last year and this year. And again, it's something that's probably not uncommon for you folks here is that anything that falls on a date that has to do with hunting season or fishing season, I mean, it's anarchy. So you have to deal with all that. But what we've have had actually is people giving that up. We've actually had a waiting list every year since 2006. And it's because of several factors, 2 of them being the social media and marketing use. One of the things that we really use social media for is not just pushing out information to the community and kind of leveraging multiple channels of access, but actually inviting the community in to participate with us. We actually develop as much as we can in the open. And for example, we're planning the 2010 symposium, and we were in a session this morning, and I'm gonna brutalize this word, but it's Pachachka. Okay, close enough?
Thank you.
Okay, yeah. Which is
I asked him to come to the session.
Okay. For those of you who weren't in the session, it's kind of this lightning talk presentation format where you do 20 slides in 20 seconds, so you last for 6 minutes and 40 seconds, and then there's different spin-offs off of that. And so we actually have a poster session at the end of the day, and I just put up on Twitter, hey, would this be kind of an interesting idea to kind of shake up the poster session a little bit. I put a link to the site, and then I just tagged it with TLT SYM. And if you go to that tag, you'll see the community's already started to kind of weigh in on those ideas as far as what they think about it. So that's some of the powers that we have. Did you?
When you say social media, can you be more specific?
Oh, sure.
Everything.
Yeah. Basically, yeah. We use Twitter. We use Facebook. We actually have a Facebook site for our symposium. We use our blogging platform. We use Flickr, we use iTunes, YouTube, we use them all. And what's really cool about it, and that's a great question, is 3 years ago, we were asking people to come to our site and use it. And now we're saying, no, do it in your space and just tag it with this tag, and we can aggregate it. And that's spurred another wave of growth because it's ownership of the content. I'm not giving up the photos I took. I'm just sharing them, but they're still on my site. The other thing that we've done is our marketing. Our marketing over the last couple of years has really focused on the end user, our community. So it's really faculty and student focused. So our marketing, our formal marketing initiatives, which go along with our informal social media marketing, really, again, targets the audience and showcases faculty doing really interesting and creative things. And you all know that peer-to-peer is, that's gold. And so that's another big driver for us with the symposium is being able to showcase these great things that people are doing and then be able to say to folks, well, this is actually very attainable and here's how we can help you do it. So it's a really powerful combination.
Just a side thing about this. These were like blog stories that we had one of our marketing people go out and they interviewed. This is Greg Pierce. He does in our College of Business. He does our Finance Coach podcast, and that's one of his students. This was actually a YouTube video, and we have a bunch of these online now. And so the things kind of pass by, and then you click on that, and you see Stuart Selver talking with some of his students about how technology impacts his teaching and learning process. The real point here is that we're not saying come here to listen to us tell you about how you should be using technology. We're saying come and listen to how your peers have been successful. And then I think Greg Pierce wanted his picture taken next to his poster whenever he was there. Yeah. It was like life size, and he wanted to show his parents and stuff. It was pretty cool.
Yes, sir. Yeah. We generally we have a keynote in the morning, and then we usually have something over lunch, and we'll look at more of that in a sec. But those are kind of the two formal. And at the end of the day, we've been anchoring it with a poster session, which may morph into something actually a lot more dynamic. That word I can't say at the end of the day. But then we have faculty breakout sessions, interspersed throughout the day in the morning and afternoon. But we also have a lot of things going on during that time as well. There's hands-on demonstration rooms. There's our educational gaming commons last year actually had a room devoted to gaming to showcase what was being built there.
Yeah, weren't we going to do the Lennon bus or something? We've talked about that.
Yeah.
Digital. We'll have our digital commons people set up a studio and start interviewing people.
And actually have them create a product, cold by the end of the day. So we try and keep it the day to be very active, but also leading up to the event being very active. As a matter of fact, we've kind of created that community expectation that. That over the years we've invited, not just through social media, but our community to actually participate in the building of the event. So we have, members of the community sitting on our program team that plan the day, that sit on the marketing team. And the demand for this type of interaction has grown so much that we actually created a new team this year that's Allan's chair, and it's called the Rogue Team, that's actually just geared up to kind of, their main focus is to get these kind of sub-events and get them running and get traction on them.
That's Rogue, R-O-G-U-E. In other words, I can do whatever I want.
As long as it meets the budget.
Yeah.
See, that's my role this year. When you're the chairperson, that's all, everything always comes down to the budget. The budget, and do we have enough time? You love to do everything. But what we've been doing, though, is kind of preparing our attendees. For an example, we have this 8 steps towards the symposium prep email that gets sent out to everyone, but we also post that off of our symposium site, and we let them know to bring a laptop, bring a camera, bring their ideas. We want them, like we said, blogging about their experiences leading up to and during the day, posting their photos and tweeting their activity, and like we were talking about earlier, now we want them doing it in their spaces and just tagging it, and we can aggregate it, and it's really taken off, and this is also very important. One of the things that we always try and do is to make sure that folks that want to play and aren't sure how to can get help with these technologies along the way. We'll do things like post little Jing videos about how to set up a Twitter account, and then how to tag it. We'll actually have we'll have digital common workshops leading up to the event that get people familiar with working with media. And then during the day, we'll actually have hands-on demonstration rooms, and our technology learning assistants have a table set up where folks can just come up and say, hey, I just was in a session about blogs, and I heard I got to activate my blog space. How do I do that? And within 5 minutes, we can have them up and publishing and contributing to the day. So those are the things that we really try and do to generate and maintain interest and momentum in these new educational technologies. The last thing that we do, or not the last thing, but the last thing I want to highlight now is we also we've kind of upped the level of speakers that we're trying to bring in. This year for 2010, we have Michael Wesch coming in and talking to our folks. Last year we had Dana Boyd and David Wiley. The year before we had Lawrence Lessig. And we really like the idea of, instead of sending our folks out, and having the message be scattered, of bringing these folks in and exposing as much of our community as possible to the leading thinkers in this digital scholarship, this age of digital scholarship, which happens to be our theme this year. We want our folks well versed in these new literacies because that's the way the world's going. And so we feel that our students, our faculty, and our staff need to be conversant in order to be productive participants in this world. And I encourage you to go to our new website, symposium.tlt.psu.edu, and check it out. The results of this is we've been able to build excitement around the event by involving people throughout, ahead of time and even after the event. There's also multiple opportunities for interaction before the event and during the day. I mean, Allan might be in a session about podcasting, and I might be in a session about blogs, and he might put something on Twitter and tag it, and I'll look at it and say, well, this kind of cross-pollinates with what I'm doing there, and then throw up, a counter or a mashup of the thoughts, and then he might then raise that question to the session that he's in, and we've actually seen our community actually take that and run with it, and actually use Twitter in that way for cross-pollinating the different breakout sessions throughout the day. The other thing is people take their ideas, and we're at that cool stage where they're like, okay, great, you gave us the platform, now get out of the way as much as you can. For example, a couple of years ago, we had these little Moo stickers from Moo.com that people were collecting that we put out covering the different topics and processes that we were showcasing. Well, the community loved them, but then they also said, well, I can go to moo.com and upload and do it. And that's what we ended up having was people by the time of the event of the symposium were bringing their own stickers that they had created and were sharing with each other. So it really got wild. In fact, we even had a person, I don't know, is there a cupcake craze in Michigan by chance? There's like a resurgence in the art of making cupcakes for some reason in Happy Valley. I don't know if it's the long winters or what. But we actually had one person, actually, the day of the event, at the end of the day, she brought in these cupcakes that she made, and they're actually all the different tags that her friends had made for the symposium, the moose sticker tags. She'd actually made cupcakes to match and brought them in and just put them out at the end of the day. And, and said, here, have at it. It was really cool. So I'm going to let that be a segue into Allan talking about our Learning Design Summer Camp.
Okay, by the way, if I would have listened to this about 3 years ago, I would have been like, you guys are crazy, like our people wouldn't do that. But this has been kind of like rounds and iterations to build up to this point, which is one of the reasons we want to emphasize the importance of letting people know what to expect. Because if this had been an event like our Learn Design Summer Camp, a lot of you would have been felt a little off. Like I'm not really prepared, this isn't what I thought it would be. So what we used to do for this Learn Design Summer Camp, we have our 24 campuses, and we used to have a day in the summer where we'd bring the instructional designers. Like typically most of the smaller campuses would have one instructional designer, but they didn't really have a group of peers. So we'd bring them together to the central campus, main campus, for one day, and they would get a preview of what's coming up, what they should know about, that sort of thing. And then we started saying that, what else could we do with this event? So this is what our attendance looked like. This should look like a familiar story. In 2006, 2007, we had about 35, 40 people. And then in 2008, we made some changes and had 110. And then in 2009, we had 191 people. Here are some of the main differences. We decided that the people who work on courses are not just instructional designers. So why are we having a separate event, right? It's almost like we're segregating that instructional design community where they're not fully able to discuss the complexities of some of the issues they're talking about. So we invited technologists, media developers, libraries, faculty members, and also included some students, some graduate students and some undergraduates. We decided to do open planning using a wiki. So we just threw up a wiki document, not a website or anything, and said, hey, we're going to have this event. What do you want to have happen? We have about a month and a half to plan it. We integrated social media, and then we created a party atmosphere by really telling people it's going to be really informal, dress down, wear shorts if you want to, and then doing a lightning talks, which is like the Machu Picchu thing that I'm going to get that down at some point. So we started off with the wiki page looking like this. It just says goal, attendance, vision, process, outcomes, and registration fee. So these were kind of discussions that I wanted to have. I filled in like a paragraph for each of these. And then by the time of the event, about a month and a half later, this is what it looked like. And this is actually a scaled down version of the table of contents. So you have things in there like graphics ideas, meetup ahead of time, evening dinners, that sort of thing. Basically, the entire schedule was planned out. Oh, should we do a group project or not? All of these discussions happened in the wiki in a month and a half. People uploaded their sticker IDs. If they wanted to register, they just added their name to the registration list. Okay, no fancy system. We didn't pay for anything. Just add your name to the wiki. If you want people to contact you through Twitter, just add your Twitter ID. And that's what they did.
And the cool thing, Allan, about that, if you
go
back, was that it was actually that middle bar, that was actually the community that added that.
Yeah, so whenever, I'm actually doing my dissertation in this area too. What I found my role being as the person who's like the main organizer is more like a gardener. So the garden is growing, and here's some things that should be transplanted over there. So I kind of reorganize things. I end conversations whenever it seems like we've reached consensus, and remove the old conversation to keep it focused. So we came up with this design that's Happy Valley, Mount Nittany there, and a graphic version of our library. If you look up in this picture, it's just some of the attendees. Almost everybody had their laptop because they listened to my note about bring your laptop. The reason for that is because we wanted to use Twitter and something called the Harvard Live Question Tool. Have you guys heard about the Live Question Tool? Okay, so if you haven't, it's kind of like clickers in reverse. So instead of you saying, okay, pick A, B, C, or D, which one is more likely, it's you guys saying, hey, what about this issue? What about budget? And then 5 other people would vote that up. And then I would look at the live question tool and be like, okay, well, there's a lot of discussion going on here about budget. Why don't we talk about that? Okay, thanks. The second year that we did it, because we've only done this 2 years so far. Oh, we also had, that's a picture from the evening dinners. My lovely co-host Jeff Swain in the front there. But in 2009, we decided to really go a little crazy. So somebody in 2008 at the end said, you know, I'm surprised you guys are runners. Why didn't you have like a race or something at the end of the day? We were like, okay, we're going to have a race next year. So we had a 5K. And Jeff, you have the button.
Get a button.
Yeah, so you got a little button if you completed the event. We had about 25 people participate in that, which was very cool. We ordered some swag through Cafe Press with no markup fee or anything. So we had like little Learning Design Summer Camp mugs. I have my shirt, my bag there. And then what else did we do? Live music. Yeah, we didn't pay this guy. He's a multimedia developer that we have. Dean, he's awesome. And he just decided, hey, you know, I'll bring my speakers and stuff in and I'll play for free, and everybody loved it. So we did that at the very beginning. It kind of set a party atmosphere for the rest of the day. There was also, the nice thing is, if you've watched the blogs at Penn State presentations so far, we actually had a lot of blog posts that were related to the Learning Design Summer Camp, and people just posted to their own blog. There are other open projects that we're working on, so those are just 3 case studies, really. Our Faculty Fellows program, then we had one of the Faculty Fellows start a podcast about Greek philosophy. Our Digital Commons Tailgate, which is a similar event, the Blogs at Penn State project. Jeff is our ePortfolio 2.0 lead, and he's doing all the project planning and everything in the open, so anybody can contribute. The website, tlt.its.psu.edu, points to our Teaching and Learning with Technology group. And you can go there for lots of information. We have like a daily, what does he call that?
The Daily Buzz?
Yeah, the Daily Buzz, which is kind of like your coffee read for the day. And Jeff, do you want to just take us home?
Sure. So just to sum up, we try and mix and match 2 things. One of them being technology. We try and, and keep some of the familiar that works and, people are comfortable with, such as email, and even posters and cupcakes. But then we also try and push the envelope a little bit, getting folks used to using Twitter and how they can use Twitter. This year we're looking more and more at things like wikis for development and Google Forms to move things along. So we try and keep a nice balance of both for folks to keep that comfort level. We also do that philosophically. We kind of go with the approach that the community, the collective, is a lot smarter than any one of us are. And so we kind of like to leverage that and say, play with us. And so we design as much as we can in the open and really ask for participation.
Yeah, and we do give up control.
Yeah.
And that's part of wisdom of crowds. That's part of the question I asked at that last session. Because, wow, like the stuff that comes out of those. And people, like, this takes a lot of work to put this stuff together. But for that 5K, I just said, could somebody take care of this? Somebody volunteered, and I didn't have to worry about it. If I had to rely on just the people in our office, I mean, everybody would be so stressed out.
Yeah, and that's exactly right. And so we give ourselves permission to have fun, to put it out there, and it's okay to be a little bit informal, even in our formal events. And recognizing that this is a culture change, and so we put a lot of effort, into getting folks comfortable with this shift and operating this way. And so thank you very much. Does anyone have any additional questions? Yes, sir.
What thingy that you didn't expect bit you on the backside the hardest?
I have one. It's not bad. Okay, so I had name badges made up, but they were alternate name badges. They didn't say, what's your name? They said either my favorite thing is, or when I grow up I'd like to ... And you just fill in your thing, right? So I thought, this would be a great icebreaker activity, but what I forgot to include are normal name badges, and then so the people who showed up and got one of those stickers and put them on would say, I'm excited about hiking, but then you'd be like, oh yeah, you're the hiking guy, but you would never really know their name. And I'm terrible about names anyway. I mean, like everybody who introduces themselves to me in this room, aside from maybe Jeff, I will forget your name. You'll walk up to me next time and I will remember. But if I haven't seen it, So, I mean, it's not terrible though. The Learning Design Summer Camp was an event. The last year we did it for 191 people. The total cost was $5,000, and most of that was some printing costs, food. It was food. It was the we gave people meal cards so they can go anywhere on campus and just use one of the residence halls or on campus dining for lunch. That was it, really.
Yeah, kind of the biggest learning experience for me has been that you try and not make like what I call state mandated fun. Like if you try and formalize something like a birds of a feather get together for post day events, like generally there's a real lag and a dropout rate. But if you kind of like float ideas or you ask people for ideas and they take it and run with it, the participation rate skyrockets. So that's one of the things that you kind of have to let go of. It's like it's not mine or it's not my idea, but it's like, hey, does anyone have any ideas? And letting them run with it.
I have something else that kind of related to that. This is actually a really big deal. You never want to make somebody feel stupid, right? So you never want to say, okay, everybody just post to their blog what they're going to be doing in the next 2 days or whatever, a profile or anything. Because if somebody doesn't know what their blog is, if they've just walked onto campus or they've been in industry for a while and blogging wasn't allowed, you never want them to be like, well, I didn't know where to go, so I felt, because then they'll detach and they won't want to work with you anymore. So that's one of the reasons these emails are important. We send them links, we send them these things like RSS in plain English, so people can really understand what this stuff is, and they can participate as much as they want. So there's a sliding scale, right? So we say, you don't know how to do any of this social media stuff, but can you make a poster? I mean, most people can do that. Can you bring some ideas? I mean, lots of people have ideas. So you give them all sorts of options, and you could have been alive, 100 years ago and still bake cupcakes. It's not that hard. But then the people who are really into this, they also aren't bored. They always have something more to do, something more to try out, and contribute back to the event.